We have some explanation for that. We have none. Don't worry. Continue your program. Oh boy, it's really something super fantastic here. You couldn't ever imagine this. Roger. We know about that. Could you go the other way? Go back the other way.
We are in India on a beautiful day of July from the lovely city of Taj Mahal. Hi, I am Vishal Gautam and I'm very excited to share my screen today with a fascinating special guest, Mr. Matías Campos, who has joined us from the world's greatest attractions, the canton of Quito in the Pichincha province of Ecuador, which is the proud home of the place called the center of the earth. Today, we are here making history by writing our names in this book of space revolution by being some of the first ones who have gathered through the space summit, this initiative called the Global Space Summit, brought to you by the Space Development Nexus and Helium Learning Labs. SDNx Foundations was established in the year 2013 with the purpose of making space accessible to everyone through its initiatives and educational projects in the Space Research Department. And Helium Learning Labs, our organizing partner, is an edtech company that aims to establish a world-class digital space school to fill the gaps between space education and space industries, to train to train the students of the future space workforce. This year's theme, the role of space education in emerging nations, was adopted to put a spotlight on the space activities in emerging nations to empower them further with with expectations that through this summit, the students and the young space professionals will get guidance with their education and career. With all that, I have a huge amount of respect, gratitude, and excitement about the opportunity to be here along with Mr. Matías. And our guest, Mr. Matías, is an extraordinary gentleman and an aspiring astrophysicist and a space enthusiast with a million dreams like all of us. He'll take us to a journey that will help us reach our escape velocities. Mr. Matías is an Ecuadorian engineer. He graduated from Worcester Polytechnic Institute from USA, where he obtained his bachelor's and Masters of Science in Aerospace Engineering and minor in Robotics Engineering. Additionally, Matías obtained a physics teaching license from the state of Massachusetts. Matías started his career in Germany, where he worked as the first silver Athena Gumb, and he returned from Ecuador to become a space entrepreneur. Matías is the founder and CEO of Astralintu Space Technologies, a space startup that focuses in providing in-orbit services that look to grant space access to new actors in Latin America and the world. Astralintu and Matías are members of the Ecuadorian Space Cluster, where they collaborate in Ecuadorian Civilian Space Agency, the EXA, and he also works as a quantum aerospace research employee in the Quantum Aerospace Research Institute, which is furthering the technologies, and they are putting efforts in this region. Additionally, Matías volunteers as the STEM program director of the Sidrails Foundation, acts as the SGAC's national point of contact for Ecuador. That was all for our guest today. Mr. Matías, thank you for being here today. The screen is all yours.
Thank you, Vishal. Thank you. Thank you for the introduction. I would like to first thank Helium Labs and also Space Development Nexus for the invitation. It's really a pleasure to be part of this world's largest virtual space summit. It's quite late here in Ecuador, so almost midnight, but it's a pleasure to be here with you guys. Yeah, so when I was invited, they asked me if I could talk about space education, what's the role of all that in the space development. And I was like, okay, that's great. I would love to talk about that, because that's exactly what we're pushing in Ecuador, and we try to be the role models of how you can do this from a developing nation. And that's what I'm going to be telling you a little bit about right now. So let me just share my screen real quick. Screen 2. Off we go. There we go. So thanks again for the invitation. And let's see, just wait a sec. There we go. Okay. Wait. Wrong screen. Let's try again. Screen 1. There we go. Sorry. There we go. Okay. So first, I would like to start by talking about the Sideralis Foundation. So the Sideralis Foundation is a foundation here in Ecuador, and our main objective is to provide a space access for all. Okay. The foundation was founded in 2019. It's a non-for-profit organization that's offering education and collaboration with space exploration actors so that they can become part of the global community. We believe that facilitating knowledge and interactions between multiple actors could provide benefit for the region and also humanity. Okay, so our mission here at the foundation is to contribute with the development and also the awareness, spread the awareness about space, with an emphasis on the Latin American region, which we're mostly developing countries, but also extended further to other places around the world, as we think this will be integral for society. So a little bit more about the foundation. Our goal is to assist researchers, students, businesses, governments, and people in general to be part of the space community, to benefit from space, to be part of its activities. And for this, we have a lot of programs that I'm going to be describing in the next slides, but which they focus on education and acceleration of technical programs. Our 3 pillars are the following. First, we provide education in the space field. Second, we accelerate the space access. And third, we support the development of new ideas. Okay, so here comes a little bit of our programs. So the first one is based out of the education pillar. We call it the Minds for the Future program. It's a program where we seek to inspire young generation, the new generation of STEM professionals and maybe future space engineers, future colleagues, through activities and space projects. And there's a module that we have that's called a satellite at home, and also a satellite in the classroom, where before the pandemic, where we would bring a satellite so that students from these schools could connect and interact with a satellite on real time. Okay. We did this since they were very young, and this has been proven for a few years. This was originally a project from the Ecuadorian Space Agency, and is now something we're doing as the foundation. Okay. Part of this program has evolved into a complete summer experience that we call the Cibernautas Summer Camp. Okay. This Cibernautas Summer Camp will be executed for the first time this year, so we're very excited about receiving our first Cibernautas in the next couple of weeks. We've created all the curriculum and all the courses with a lot of love, and we think and we believe that being part of something like this summer camp, where you fuse STEM and also space in a first of its kind experience here in Ecuador and Latin America, will inspire these young people to dream big. And sometimes, a lot of times happens that when you're a small kid in Ecuador, as I was once, you tend to hear a lot of, this is not for us, this is for Americans, this is for Europeans. But since a young age, we're going to be showing the students that it's not true. Like, space it's up to them. It's in their hands. They just have to go get it. Okay, so Cibernautas is one of our more exciting experiences for this year. We've prepared 5 courses for this first experience. We have space exploration. We call them missions, the classes. We have a Blue Planet mission, where students will be learning about the Earth ecosystem and how to take care of it. We have a robotics course, so that students will be tinkering and learning from Arduino. We have a programming course where we are going to have students build their own Android applications And lastly, we have outings where we will be taking students to places in Quito like Planetarium and doing some fun activities with the day we call the Space Day, where we're going to fly some rockets and do some other cool things. So that's Cibernautas. Please check us out at cibernautas.com. It's all in Spanish for now, but it's visually very nice, so I recommend everybody to check it out. Okay. Our second pillar, as I mentioned, was to accelerate space access, and for that, Sideralis Foundation has this program called the Space Access Acceleration. This program is done in partnership with Astralintu Space Technologies, the company I'm the proud founder and CEO, and also the Ecuadorian Space Agency. The Ecuadorian Space Agency is the key technological partner, so it's providing the satellite technology and the satellite infrastructure for us to execute these missions, while Astralintu is the main executor of the logistics of the launch, integration, launch, and so forth. For this program, the foundation is giving a subvention slot on what's called a SharedSat mission, where we share a whole satellite in between multiple users. Okay, so we can fly up to 6 payloads from different countries from around the world at a reduced price. You can check us out at the Sideralis Foundation website, where we have an open calling for applications to this program, where you can get your payload, a card payload, into space for 18,000 euros starting at. So it's we're bringing costs down so that more people can get access to space. We know that there's a lot of universities, a lot of colleges, a lot of startups that have developed the technology, but they're just waiting on a chance to get to space, and sometimes that's very limiting. Sometimes building your own spacecraft from scratch can take years. So that's where we come in, and with the foundation, we've made this collaboration so that we can make it possible for these people. Okay. So as I mentioned, the foundation has several partners. We work with the Ecuadorian Space Agency and Astralintu. We also work with the Space Generation Advisory Council, where I am the national point of contact in Ecuador. And we're also proud members of the International Astronautical Federation. And also we are members of the Administrative Committee for Developing Countries and Emerging Communities, where we try to promote these projects and programs at a global scale through the Federation. Okay, so that's all about the Sideralis Foundation. I just wanted to jump real quick to a second presentation about Astralintu as itself. You can find my contact right there, or you can jump into the Sideralis Foundation website to find out more. Okay, just one quick second here. Let's jump. There we go. Okay, so now let me talk a little bit more about the SharedSat and FullSat services that Astralintu provides. As I mentioned before, through the foundation, you can get access to these services with a subvention. But you could, if there's our startups around, or maybe more older companies that are looking some partner to which you can fly your missions with, Astralintu also offers that directly. Okay. Yeah. So first, let me mention a little bit. I'll give you a little bit background on what's going on with space. Before, you could only do traditional space, right? Only big companies, only big governments like NASA, Russia, China, Japan Europe would be able to go to space. Now things are changing. We have private companies getting to space, and we also have smaller companies, and also from emerging countries, providing top scale, top quality, top technology products and services to get to space. So this is new space. It's growing quite a lot. In 2017, I think there were like 30 launches. In 2020, there were like 200 satellite launches. So the industry is expanding quite fast, and that's where we want to be part of, so that we can be there and help people to be part of new space, especially people in Latin America and emerging countries. Okay, so here's a little bit more what I was mentioning of the growth, and it's key. The key here is that traditional space also was about a lot of large spacecraft. Now we're turning into smaller spacecraft. At first, people thought like going small sat was crazy, but now more and more people are thinking and reevaluating doing their missions on small sats, which that's yeah. As I mentioned before, Astralintu it was founded in 2020, and it's providing services using the Ecuadorian Civilian Space Agency's technology, mainly the Kratos spacecraft bus. We're looking to launch our first mission on Q2 2022. We still have open slots in our mission, so if you're interested, you can contact us. A little bit more about our partner, the Ecuadorian Space Agency. It's a non-for-profit research and development organization in Ecuador, which is tasked with the execution of the Ecuadorian space program. It's an interesting case because it's one of the few space agencies that's civilian. Okay, it has a lot of milestones, like getting the first zero gravity plane in Latin America, and also we have the first Ecuadorian cosmonaut that's going to be commanding the first mission of Latin American astronauts to space sometime this year or the next year. Okay. So a little bit more about the SharedSat and FullSat services. So what we do is host client customers' payloads on a satellite. We have two options. We either share the satellite or we can give you the whole satellite as a dedicated mission. We provide everything from mission design to full integration to launch, and you have all in engineering support throughout the way. The benefits of all this is you have a simplicity. You avoid to develop your own space program from scratch. Costs, because you can share costs, you can drop them a lot lower. Quality and speed and versatility of the process are really taken care by us, so we can work together with you to integrate whatever mission you have into our spacecraft and get it to the desired orbit. So here's some in a nutshell what the two services are about. SharedSat, as you can see, you can share the different payloads. FullSat, you have a full payload on a dedicated satellite for you. Both these missions include the whole spacecraft bus, the full technology of the Kratos spacecraft bus. You get the payload integration in our facilities by us. So all the mechanical integration, software development, and electrical interfacing with the ISEP system core is taken care by us. We do the launch procurement, we do all the certification, all the licensing of the radio frequencies. We plan the mission, we find the perfect orbit for you. We work together in doing that. We also do the testing before the spacecraft is integrated and also after, before launch. We certify it, and additionally, we also provide ground segment services. So once your payload is in sky, we can help you and we can get the data back for you using our ground station network that we have with our partners. Okay, the key here is that we support a lot variety of missions, especially as we're talking about education. We support educational missions so at a low cost, especially in a SharedSat mission. Okay, but we also, a lot of our customers have technology demonstrations. So maybe they built a new thruster, a new OBC, and they want to fly it with us so that they get the TRL-9 so they can start commercializing it. We also get Earth observation customers, communication customers, and of course, we're open to creating constellations using our platform. Okay, so a little bit about the Kratos spacecraft bus, which is what I think certainly sets us apart from the competition. Our spacecraft bus is fully integrated. It's ready to fly. There's 0.8 U of space available for your payload. We can deliver up to 100 watts of power inside a 1U form factor. This is something you would expect from a 6U spacecraft. We can add laser communications of up to 10 megabits per second. We have SDR, we have integrated magnet torquers. There's a lot to love in the Kratos spacecraft bus. It's really powerful. It's there ready to make your mission a reality. Yeah, and the key and the biggest thing here and this is what changes the field and makes it so that space access is available to all, is that our Kratos spacecraft bus comes shielded with a technology developed by EXA, which is called the NEMIA shielding. Okay, with NEMIA shielding, you get a complete tolerance of radiation inside the spacecraft, and also throughout LEO orbit, as you orbit, you don't have any thermal cycling. So you have a constant 10 degrees Celsius inside the spacecraft. So this is revolutionary because you, as a new space actor, maybe you're developing a new technology, you don't have to worry about radiation, and you don't have to worry about thermal cycling. That's what we take care in our spacecraft with this technology. And that decreases barriers a lot. Okay, so here's my contact information again. Looking forward to hearing from you, and maybe hopefully we get to work together in getting to space together. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Matias, that you delivered so much to us. And I got to personally learn a lot about satellites and the initiatives that you have taken, and with the startup and with the satellite community. All it is great. It's humongous. And with that, I wanted to deliver a secret this morning, and the secret was that the space industry or the space community is growing, and the growth is there is still humongous growth still left to be done. Therefore, it is people like you, Mr. Matías, that bring space down to the surface of the earth. And I thank you for the insights of the recent developments in the space and in your country. And I'm inspired, and we are inspired and we are sure that our countries, when we collaborate just like this, will definitely progress in the upcoming days. And we as a community will grow further and keep inspiring people to progress towards the future. I think we should now move on to the next section of this session, which is interview question. Some questions that I have prepared for you, and some questions which I have made up from the presentation that we already shared with us. Because you have had a fair bit of experience with the entrepreneurial insight, I think you're going to be the perfect guest for us to answer some of the questions which our entrepreneurial viewers might have. My question, Mr. Matías, to you, the first question is, according to you, how is it possible to enhance research possibilities and space education opportunities in emerging nations?
Okay, yeah, thank you. First of all, thank you for your kind words earlier. It's a pleasure to see that maybe my work is inspiring people in Ecuador and around the world to also go towards space and make it a reality. That's what we want to do. So thank you for that. And answering your question, how to promote research and space development, space education in countries. Okay, so research is a little tough because it's a highly technical field. Okay, so if you're young, maybe my suggestion would be to find a mentor. So I've been lucky to be mentored by the Ecuadorian cosmonaut, the Commander Ronnie Natter. So he's been fundamental in my growth as a professional, as an engineer. So anybody out there that's looking to get into space, of course, go to university, do well in physics and math. But then after you go out into the workforce, don't settle for the things that come easily. Try to go a little further. Have the initiative to take a leap of faith. Find a mentor, learn from him or her, and truly develop your skills. And it's not real to think that you will know it all when you start. Every day you learn something, but every day you teach something. So it's a great way to see it that way. As you go forward, you can share what you've know while you learn some more. So that's the path, and that's what's nice about being human. So and same goes for space education. You see that maybe you are getting to a higher stage of knowledge of technical development, but you can still make these programs like the Cibernauta summer camp that we created for children. So it's part of the same, two sides of the same coin. Mm-hmm.
Even I agree to you that finding a better mentor is definitely something that boosts your research capabilities. I want to ask you this personal question about during the time when you were finding a mentor and you went to research programs, and when did you when did you take your step towards, when did you venture into this into starting up your own company? Because it is academia, you're doing research.
Yes.
On the other part, you're thinking to go full time towards the
Mhm.
industrial side.
Yes. Well, oof, that's a that's a good question because it comes with a long story, but it's truly a path of self reflection, of knowing oneself. So as you mentioned in my bio at the beginning, I started my career in Germany,
Yes.
and as soon as I finished my master's degree, I realized of course, I was a master's in aerospace engineering, but I knew nothing. So I wanted to. The more you know, the more you realize that you don't know. So then I went on to Germany, and then the workforce was a little simple. I don't know. It was not challenging for me. I felt a little bit like I wasn't contributing as much there in Germany as I would be contributing in Ecuador. So that then is when I decided to find a mentor, to live the relatively easy life, or I realized that the work that I had there was the dream for a lot of people, could be the dream for a lot of people, but it was not my dream. My dream was to come back home, to develop the space industry here. So as I was mentioning before, you just have to take that leap of faith, believe in yourself, believe in your dreams, and go chase them. So that's how I became an entrepreneur. Looking back, it was probably I should have thought it better, but I don't regret it. Yeah, of course, being an entrepreneur has every day I've learned something new. I'm very thankful of all the people that have joined my venture. Every time a new engineer, a new person joins the group, I'm just beyond grateful for them to giving their time and effort to building this that is changing our reality. So yeah, it's very inspiring for me to see that.
And that is inspiring for me as well. Learning from you, the story, the background story, even though it was short, but it was impactful.
Yeah.
And I myself am a true believer of the analogy that you just said about knowledge. That the more you learn, the more you realize that you have learned so less. I think that the same analogy can be put into space development as well, because as further we are proceeding into the development of the space, the more we are realizing how far back we are. And
Yes. Mm-hmm.
this
Exactly.
opens up to a lot of questions that I have for you. And for this, I will jump around with you, knowing you a little personally, and
Mm-hmm.
technical questions that I have. So there is no decided roadmap for this. But this opens up a few questions for me that I just want you to describe yourself in 3 words first. Then later on, I'll proceed with more interesting questions as we go. 3 words
Mm,
that you can describe yourself with.
3 words. Okay. Um, I have initiative. Yeah. I'm perseverant and I'm curious.
Lovely.
Mhm. Yep.
Absolutely perfect things, I believe. Even though I have no experience with entrepreneurship, but I certainly believe that someone who's delivering this has some capabilities for it. This now, your company that you have started with CEO, it deals with space satellites, and it's a question that I'm asking you, that the space debris is a rising issue, and are there any startup of campaigns that are running in your country that can deal with it?
Sure, that's a great question. So a lot of the interested customers that reach out to us actually have plans on testing devices that would allow for a spacecraft to deorbit. So yeah, it's a very like it's very common to discuss these things now in this industry. So it has a big market because soon it will be mandatory to have deorbiting devices on board. So in Latin America, there's not much being done technically, but I know there's a lot being done in the law side. So as a national point of contact for Ecuador, I'm in touch with all the other national point of contacts, and all of them are lawyers. and they're working on the proposals for rules, for norms, so that a spacecraft can be decommissioned and avoid being space trash. So that's something that Latin America is helping out with. So they're being part of new space in that way.
Where's the policy building that is taken care by the government side of the issue to take care of this space debris issue? That is lovely.
Certain, yes.
And another personal question to you: because like you mentioned earlier before, like people used to talk about that these are the things. Space is a thing for developed nations, not emerging nations currently. Then what inspired you to pick up space? Not to only do your all your studies in it, you have a huge background, you have a bachelor's in it, you have a master's in it, and then you have started up your own company in it. What inspired you to do all that?
Yeah, that's a great question. Like what's inspired me? I knew a lot. I believed in myself, and I knew I had a lot of potential. I still believe I have it. So I went with the hardest thing I could come up with. There were a lot of naysayers, I have to say. They would tell me, "You will not succeed. That's not for us. Like, we are wasting your time. You're never going to return." But those things just fueled me. And for every 2-3 people that doubted me, there were also a lot of people that believed in me. So I listened to them. I chased my dreams. I've always been fascinated about space. I look up and I feel a calling towards it, and just being able to accomplish this dream and then come back here. And a lot of people that doubted me in a way, or maybe they didn't doubt me, but they didn't support me. No, but now they see it and say, if he was able to get to create his own company in space, maybe I can also get my dreams come true. So it's been very, very compelling to see. Well, I'm a scout troop leader. A little bit more about myself, and I love to see the scouts, and also maybe my cousins and some people that have grown close to me, to see them being inspired by my story, and they inspire me as well to keep pushing.
Those are really true words of inspiration for someone who is younger and who is still venturing into the space into the space community. What will be your advices to the next generation who's preparing themselves to get into the space sector?
Okay, advice would be brave, take the initiative. It's not easy, but it's very compelling. If you have a desire to be part of this industry, there's a lot of opportunity. Just go for it, study hard, so get surrounded by people that support you, that complement you, create a multidisciplinary team, and find a mentor, as I said before. And all these things, without you noticing it, they will start building up, and you'll see that you're going to be in path to success and to be part of space.
Okay, there is a lot of money that is spent on development and research and development of space programs, and even developing anything, maybe a product or a satellite. How do you think that that sustainability can be achieved when you have already spent so much of money in capital on something like it?
Oh, sure. That's a good question, especially coming from developing countries. People, when they see us making space stuff, so making satellites, they say like, "Oh, they're wasting our money." So yeah, that's because people think the way traditional space was handled, like mostly all space missions were paid with tax money, but that's not the case anymore. Space technology is tapping from a global market of resources, so it's not necessarily taking away from the national economies, but it's bringing two national economies. So I'm seeing how even my startup, as a young startup as it is, it's already creating employment in Ecuador. It's already bringing technology to Ecuador. So it's something that maybe it'll take some time for people to start realizing that we're not wasting or taking away from education, health, which are still very important things to do or to take care of in the country, where we're also growing and tapping into this global resource. And also space, what a lot of people don't realize, it brings a lot of benefits to the communities. So that's what the Serialized Foundation does. It's part of spreading this awareness. How people don't realize how like Earth observation helps agriculture, helps fishing. Here in Ecuador, we have a lot of volcanoes. Monitoring them, things like that, that people don't realize that with space, everything becomes more safe and more productive and more sustainable. And yeah, of course, space also, just to share a quick thing, maybe getting things into space is not as sustainable in greenhouse effect emissions. But that's why in Astralintu we're trying to become the first Latin American company, startup, the first Latin American space startup becoming carbon neutral. So we're studying all the impact that our manufacturing and our launches do, and we're going to compensate for it. So it's something about building the future in a sustainable way.
Certainly, if you look at it from a broader mindset, then you can see the good thing that this brings. And if you keep your mindset pointed to a specific place or the area, it will not appear to be much sustainable. Like you mentioned that space satellites, even though it looks that you're wasting your money into satellites, but on the other hand, it includes things like geographical mapping, terrain mapping, and a lot many things that your initiative, which is the Astralintu Space Technologies, is bringing. I would love you to reflect some of your struggles in your startup.
Sure, that's a great question. Struggles. Well, I'm just kind of like admitting it right now. When I started up, I didn't have a business model quite settled. So I knew I wanted to be part of space, but I didn't know exactly what I was going to do. So maybe that was a little bit limiting in a way, but I knew that I was going to come up with an idea. I was going to find out somewhere that we could be part of. So we created the company, we created the logo, we started making the website, like we started building a team, but we didn't know what we were going to do. And then the idea came to me, and that's when the FullSat, the SharedSat services came to be. So yeah, things happen. The moral of the story here would be that don't get too invested, don't get too focused on maybe one only thing. Be open to move around, to be flexible, to maybe start doing something, but maybe know that something else will be what we will continue doing. But don't let that detract you. Just grab one lead and follow it, and it'll take you where you have to be. Of course, there's a lot of up and downs, but yeah, this is one that I could think about right now to share with you.
I believe whoever is watching this interview is definitely going to be very informative for them. And startup comes up with a lot of questions, and for someone who is willing to invest so much or his or her life into it, there is a lot of things that you can try to work upon in a startup. One is developing a business model and if it's a STEM startup, then you have to also work a lot on your technical domain. In the technological department, you have research and development. How did you begin? What to choose? Whether to pick up the business part first, which deals with the organization of all the stuff, or whether you were more invested into the technological part.
Yes, that's a great question. So as an engineer, the background, like when you say, okay, I have my own company now, you think, oh, okay, I'm doing all the cool parts, I'm building all the fancy technologies and the lab all day long. But the reality is that you are mostly like creating documentation and in meetings with potential collaborators and partners. So it's a lot of the administrative tasks that come up. But what I really love about startup culture is that you don't have to stick to one only task. You're flexible. So maybe 2 hours a day you're the head engineer, but then 2 hours later you have the hat of the CEO, of the administrative person. And when you recruit people into the team, of course you have some idea of what they're going to do. But what I love to tell them is like, you have to define your own role. Like, give yourself your own title, and be mindful that whatever you choose will not be exactly what you're going to be doing all day long, right? You will be doing marketing here, then you will be doing digital design here, social media, then you will be engineering something. So there's a lot of things going on in the startup, and that's what's nice about it. It's a very fluid environment, and the team we've built, because everybody's doing a little bit of everything, we learn so much from each other, which I think is the best part.
Well, surely it must be very exciting. I can only think of, when I think of a startup, as this analogy where you are at the top of a cliff and you are jumping, where you don't have a parachute, but while you're jumping, you create your own parachute from your backpack. So that parachute is made up of all the things that you just mentioned. It is the technical department, then sometimes it is marketing or social media, and so much fun stuff is there.
Yes.
And
yes, I love that analogy. That's how it feels, actually.
yes, exactly. And someone who is actually willing to learn possibly everything, or maybe the term would be someone who is an aspiring polymath. So startup would be a perfect place to begin with. Not only would it be a perfect place to begin with, it is definitely going to be the perfect place to end with as well.
Exactly.
Do you ever wish to continue your academic part now, and while keeping it on the side, or are you fully involved into this? What do you have to say on this?
Sure. Before Astralintu, before I started up, I was really considering doing my PhD. But then again, PhDs go really in depth into one specific thing, and maybe that's not exactly what I needed. As I mentioned, I'm being part of a multidisciplinary team. You become really broad in knowledge, really broad in skills. So in a way, it's kind of going a different path than the PhD, but you're still learning a lot. You're still learning a lot about you as a person, as a professional, as an engineer. So yeah, of course, there's a lot of people that doing the PhD is the perfect choice. But if you're an entrepreneur, maybe going for that master's is a good idea. But after that is maybe you can do a second master's. In my case, I've been lucky to be part of academia through papers. So for the ones who are right now, I was invited. Well, I have 2 papers. For the ones who are going to IAC 2021, I'm presenting 2 papers over there. So you don't necessarily have to abandon academia if you decide to start up, right? You continue to learn. You continue to be part of all this world of teaching, of learning, of researching and presenting and being part of the scientific community. It's not, you don't have to be a PhD for that. You can be part of it as an entrepreneur. So yeah, I look forward to seeing a lot of you in Dubai later this year.
I certainly believe there are a lot of people coming, and let's venture into the political side. Do you think that privatization of space industry will benefit these emerging nations?
Yes, for sure. Yeah, we're one example of it, right? Our space agency is private, and the technology developed by the Ecuadorian Space Agency is what allowed Astralintu to jump into the space community a lot quicker than it would have if it didn't exist. So yeah, privatization of space really helps making the gap or the learning curve and everything a lot narrower to get to space for people like us from emerging countries. Yes.
And does the government help in any way for people who are developing something related to space technologies, and particularly for space?
Yeah, that's a little hard. Of course, we don't really count on the government for anything, but maybe in the future, we're bringing a couple of events. We're applying to be hosts of some events from worldwide space events here in Quito, Ecuador. So we're through those events, we're trying to create more awareness and maybe getting the government a little bit more involved. So yeah, hopefully we could there could be a public-private partnership in the future. But at the beginning, I think it's a little easier to go private and then see where it goes.
I have another question for you, which is, uh, that, well, just give me a second.
Sure.
Yeah, it was. Well, what do you think the importance of sending civilian into space? Because I think it must be in your milestone somewhere in future. What is your idea about that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, for example, it's very well known that the Apollo effect. So, of course, the Cold War and the Americans racing to the moon first and everything had a big investment, had a quick development of technology that it's well known. But what people don't sometimes overlook is that the energy, the inspiration. So after Apollo, a lot of people became inspired to become engineers, to become STEM professionals, to become astronauts even. So you can ask any of the astronauts right now, and if you ask them, they're probably inspired by Apollo. So that's something that it's hard to measure, but it's something that made the United States and the American economy grow a lot, the Apollo effect. So sending civilians into space, as you mentioned, is very important because for places like Ecuador in Latin America and other emerging countries, getting to that place to have that Apollo effect. So that's why I mentioned before, Commander Ronnie Natter is commanding the first mission of Latin American astronauts to space. It's called LATCOSMOS C, and that's very important for me and for the Ecuadorian Space Agency, because we want that to be the source of inspiration for the next generation of STEM professionals, engineers, and future astronauts.
Absolutely. Even the moon mission of Apollo 11 inspired me and a lot of people, especially. I love the quote that Neil Armstrong quoted, that humanity's one step on moon is humanity's greatest leap. And there's a lot more to come. I think we should now do this small interview, and let me ask you something personal. And we are now entering into the fun question round, which is, this round is going to be a rapid fire round. So I have a few questions for you. You do not have to make them long. Just answer me in simple words and
sure,
as quick as you can, because this is fun. Let's know you a little personal, and this will give us a more better insight of how you are as a person and how an entrepreneur is.
Sure.
The first question to you, sir, is, what is your favorite space movie?
Space movie, The Martian. Although the book is a lot better, and let me tell you, Project Hail Mary, Martin Weir's new book. If that becomes a movie, that'll be my favorite space movie.
Okay. Also tell us the important thing that inspired you in that movie.
Okay, so yeah, the Project Hail Mary came out a month ago, so maybe I'll talk about The Martian. Maybe the audience can relate a little more. Yeah, as a space entrepreneur, as an astronaut, I'm not an astronaut, but you feel like an astronaut, something that you can feel in the shoes of Matt Whitney, and like you really believe, like, what would you do if you were left stranded in Mars? And I feel a lot related to the character, and like as I said, I'm quite perseverant. I would try to use science and to get out of it. Yeah.
Another question, which is, if you ever got a chance to settle down on another planet, what planet would it be?
Probably one of Saturn's moons. Yeah, because imagine just waking up and looking Saturn, the huge Saturn coming up the horizon. Beautiful.
That is lovely. I mean, I would never expect the answer like this, because normally you would expect an answer from a planet and they're watching moon, but it's the opposite.
Yeah.
That is lovely.
Sometimes the planet is deadly and the moon is not. So.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
This is why space is fun. You never know what is deadly. Even though this comes true for everything, even though where we are around.
Yeah.
And if you ever were abducted by aliens, then you're having a first glance at them. What your first question would be to them?
Yeah. Yeah, I would probably it's very likely that we wouldn't be able to communicate. So I would try to. I don't know. It's a little biased. Everybody should read the Project Hail Mary by Matt Weir, because if the book tells about the encounter between a human astronaut and an alien, and the way it's depicted is exactly the same way it would be like that. Maybe that's the closest. That book will be the closest we'll ever be to a real alien-human encounter. And I love the part where they share with each other the composition of their atmospheres, so what they breathe, by using chains of atoms. So I found that genius. So I don't know, maybe that's something that I would ask, like what do you breathe, or what's your atmosphere like? Because it's very likely that what they're living is deadly to me, but what I live in is deadly to them. So to be able to know that I will not harm them. So that's the first thing I would ask, like what's their atmosphere composed of?
Yeah, the book Hail Mary, I'll keep that in mind. We'll read that for sure.
Yes. I have it right here. Let me show you.
That's great. Okay.
Recommend it. Yeah.
All right. You are see, whoever's watching right now, just say yes, I'll read this. And
yes. No, completely. You should.
Talking about aliens is the fun part. And why do you think that humans have this persona of aliens, as they are always going to do us some harm, and there is always this thing that the fight against aliens and humans, can we not be friends? Just a random
question. No, that's fine. That's a good question, because actually in the book they become friends. They become really good friends.
Oh.
So yeah. So that's more like something I would imagine to be like. I think of it this way. So if you're leaving your planet, it's because you're an astronaut. Like you dedicated your life to maybe understanding science and maybe teaching. So you were selected in a way to go to space. I don't know if you've met astronauts. They're usually very cool people. And so if one astronaut that's like the nicest people of one planet encounters another one, they're usually going to be friendly to each other, not necessarily hostile. So maybe that's a good way of seeing it, to see maybe space exploration will be friendly. Earth is an example. International Space Station is usually a very friendly place where frontiers and borders disappear. So why not? It would be the same case with our civilizations. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a perfect example and a great answer. And we are now into the final round and the final question. As a token of inspiration, I am touched and I'm moved, and you have surely delivered a lot, and it was very informative to talk to you, Matias. As a final token, what will you advise? Even though you have answered this question already, but I just want people to understand this and absorb all of that they have taken through this, which is, what career advice would you give to students who are passionate about space?
Great question. Yeah. See, as I mentioned before, find a mentor, and if you really love space, don't be afraid of it. It's going to be hard, but not impossible. So take the initiative, go for it. If you enjoy it, if you love it, then the physics and all the hard parts will come easy to you.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Matias. And I thank you for being here, for contributing yourself and talking about your project and your initiative uh, with us, with SDNx and Helium Learning Labs in this Global Space Summit. And it was a wonderful session. I thank you everyone for watching. And again, a big special thank you for Matías, the organizers, and everybody else.
Thank you, Vishal. Thank you, everybody. It's been a pleasure. I really, as I said, it's quite late here, but I had fun. It was good, better than sleeping. So yeah.
I wish you a good night's sleep, Mr. Matías. Have a good night. Take care, everybody. This is your host, Vishal Gautam, signing off. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Everyone. Bye. Thank you.
What is it? We have some explanation for that. We have none. Don't worry. Continue your program. Oh boy, it's really something super fantastic here. You couldn't ever imagine this. Roger.